Okay, hello, welcome. It is great to finally get this to connect with live. And this is episode 2 of the Chester Artbeat interview series. Today, I am going to be bringing Richard Coan, who is a fabulous graphic designer, but so much more than a graphic designer, to the stage. So, Richard does. As more than a graphic designer, one of the things that he specializes in is bringing businesses and brands' identities into the foreground. He clarifies them, he helps develop some of the copy and the messaging, and he is an all round digital aficionado. In his creative time, when he is not making beautiful logos, banners, designs, and posters, not to mention business cards, business collateral, and banners for all of your fairs and well, whatever other needs you might have to promote your business, frankly. He also dabbles a little in songwriting and has been known to do a spoken word or a little bit of poetry. His most recent foray even advertising him with a Scouse accent, which is not the Richard I previously met. That was rather surprising. He is a family man who has a fabulous family, but it is one of Richard's fun pastimes to drop the odd dad joke. And I'm sure he's been known to embarrass his teenage children, showcasing his musical talents to their friends. He loves the idea that all the good ideas in the world, that could be anything from something tiny to a product or a service, being given the chance to make a difference that they were designed to make. Clarifying and visualizing ideas is his thing, and he does this for individuals, for charities, and for organizations, not to mention businesses and entrepreneurs. And he just loves making ideas happen. And one of the ideas that he has helped us with is the Chester Artbeat brand. So, as you can see, I've got some of his work behind me right now. We welcome Richard Coan, the man who's behind a lot of these posters and designs that you have seen, onto the stage.
Hello. Quite an introduction. Quite an introduction. It's a pleasure to be here.
Fabulous to have you. So, Richard, I think I first met you when I was with Julie, who first birthed Chester Artbeat, and she was in the process of taking it from the pilot with Canon Jane Brooke, who I interviewed in episode 1. And one of the things that they did was they had this fabulous poster that I recall we sat and we doodled and we drew all over the old branding. In fact, it was yellow with multiple colours. I think we called it a little bit Crayola colour box, didn't we, back in the day?
Back in the day, yeah.
Back in the day, talk to us a little bit about how you take what somebody presents to you, their mock-ups, their ideas of where they want to go, and start to ask a few questions and what that process looks like so that we can see how we took Chester Artbeat from the yellow design with the clock and the pieces of Chester and the colourful letters through to the splat branding from 2022, and maybe just a little quick timeline through to this fabulous green branding today.
Yeah. Well, I guess the first question is always kind of why are you doing this? What are you trying to do? What's the difference you're trying to make with this? Who's it aiming at and stuff? And so I can remember that initial logo that I think Julie did back in the day. It must be 4 years ago now. 4 years? Is it 4 years ago? Maybe it must be.
Well, it was 2019 because COVID obviously got in the way and
Yeah.
biennial event. So then it was 2022, not
Yeah.
2021, because, well, yeah, we know what happened there, don't we? We don't need to dig up trauma.
Yes, let's not mention the gap.
The C word.
The C word. Yeah, so so Julie showed me the sketch, the logo that she had, and said, "What do you think of this?" And of course you can only make that judgment once you work out what you're trying to express. And well, what is the event that you're putting on? What you're trying to say about it, and does this logo reflect that reflect that event? Does it, dare I say, does it look professional enough? does it look fun enough? Does it look, whatever the tone of the event you're trying to put on? So it's a lot of digging around to sort of set that brief, so you know what you're trying to express before you start, really. And then there'll be several ways to express that. So that's the first question, really, to sort of dig that out. And it was very much, from what I remember, it was a little bit sort of more of a, maybe a younger aimed event, so a bit more fun event at that time, a bit more active, a bit more interactive, come and join in. So that's why, we kept with that sort of splat theme of playing and a bit of fun, so and I think it was a live walking trail in the city, so it was very much, come around and enjoy all the city and explore, and it's
look at that, we have it.
That's the original one that Julie did. Yeah, so it's got that sense of, I can see the feet there, and she wanted to keep that life to it, but just to professionalize it up a little bit more. I think it's there's obviously some challenges there with legibility a little bit and stuff like that. So
so that's then when you started to move into looking at developing. She had a sketch and a pre-made version that she'd put together in Paint, I seem to recall. One of the things that then led us to do was to say, okay, we need something that reflects better. And I've got the PDF here that you had fabulously mocked up. Let's make it a little bit more just the size of the screen. There we go. That was starting to look at the logo she'd mocked up before and taking that splat and the colours through.
Yeah. It's crazy seeing these things, actually, because this is such a while ago, isn't it? But
yeah.
It's reminding me of things like, well, the emphasis of things, is it Chester art beat, or is it Chester art beat? Where is the emphasis? Is it on art beat or is it on Chester? And it felt like it needed to be a bit more on the art beat. And the notion of that live art walking trail in the city being a directional arrow, and having making the logo flexible enough so it could introduce the other colors, and the splats. I can see the little splats there in the corner of the graphic there. So of course the identity is a mixture of the logo and the colors and those graphics around there. So you have lots of different elements to then play with when you're creating your marketing. Oh, and the little trail there as well, the little dotty trail. So yes. It was very fun. It was a fun sort of active brand, you might say. Yeah.
And it took those feet. So you remember you said, oh, look, there's the feet. I remember them. But that's where it developed to the arrows. And then the arrows, because the city was so big and there were so many different venues, when the trail map was formed, that's where the arrows kept with the dotted lines. So it was that taking the walk and the walking trail signage with the same point as the arrow that went around the venues and the artwork. So you threaded things together. Yeah.
And the splats, is that notion of things will be happening with a lot of the artists, and you can join in and have a go. And it's this is a fun day, to go and interact with the local artists. Yeah. So then we finished up with ta-da, this final guide, which is where things were going from last time. Yeah. So that's like the little style sheet, you might say, as I'd call it. So the logo, the fonts in there, Gotham bold, etc., and the color splits and the different colors we can use or can be used, and maybe how the lines and the colors interact. So it gives you sort of a snapshot of what it might look like once you start creating your marketing materials or whatever you need to create, web headers or social media posts, whatever. And it lets everybody who's involved in that production, they can all see the general look of feel that we're going for here. Purple is the main color. There are other colors that you can use. There is a dotted line. There's these venue graphics, and we can use the splats sort of around, around the edges of things. So it just gives everybody a sort of a heads up on what we're sort of looking for as a brand identity. The look and feel of it.
And part of that reason was, as you said, it was about getting families and people to try to be creative. The vision of Artbeat at that point, the city, there wasn't as much footfall as maybe the tourist board and the local people would have liked, and the businesses. And it therefore, some of the locations, you had a massive map with so many venues on. Some of them were within shops, some were within cultural venues. The idea was just to get around as much as the city centre as possible and bring creativity and something fun so that people engaged with others and stepped out themselves. There was lots of artists doing the have a go. But then this year, the vision somewhat changed. So we've been taught. There I go again. This way. We've been changing the art landscape in Chester. We know that it is becoming an arts and culture destination. So part of the vision is to develop that. Part of the vision is to bring forth and represent some of the fabulous Chester artists, those in the Northwest, but also to showcase that Chester's worth coming to. Now, you may not have heard, did you hear, Richard, that recently they did this massive nationwide poll and Liverpool got the #1 large city to visit in the country for a city break, but we got the second medium city. So of all the cities in the UK, okay, Bath, my mum would, yes, you got to say it with the castle, yeah. They got #1, but Chester got second best medium city to come and take a break at. And so obviously things are changing, things are developing, people are seeing it is a destination, a place to come to. And so I would love you to talk us through, because obviously you are an artist and what you create, you've actually got quite arty and almost made your own art pieces with this time. So if I bring up the resources again so that we can look at it, because I think it sort of started around about this was the first, oh no, the logo. Maybe we should look at the logo. You can tell me to go left and right. I think you can see the little images at the bottom, can't you? So give me some navigational.
Navigational lefts and rights.
If you need them.
Yeah, well, again, the start point was just working out the change of tone, the change of direction, really. And it was definitely something a bit more grown up, a bit more elegant, understated, a bit, I don't know, a bit more sort of, dare I say, satchy, a bit more London, something that was a bit more serious. Can I use that word? A bit more understated, and just let the artwork be the hero, if you like. So we just wanted to simplify the logo down and have a sense of it's slightly hiding behind something. I'll chop the edge off that circle there. So it's slightly hiding behind, because the most important thing is the artwork, and as we to shine through. And Chester Artbeat is holding that space, if you like. It's live art in the city. There's still a notion of some of the artists, I think, are going to be still working or doing a little bit of working. But it's much more sort of contemporary and understated. And the logo's flexible enough so we can actually fill that little bit in on the side there. I think you've used that on the Facebook page. Like so it just gives you a glimpse of that, of the actual art. What else have you got down there?
So then that's where we started to ask for something to promote it. And you moved on to that notion of, okay, we've got the logo, we've got the colour palette, because it was going off the green tone from the old palette, muting some of the other colours out and letting the artist's colours come forth. So this was, I think, the first iteration of promotional material that was to showcase it was Chester and it was artists, but also to communicate the vision. And this is where you really started to play. There was a whole guide of seeing these different shapes coming across. It was fabulous when you were describing to me your process in, oh, well, we need to minimize this and we need to showcase that. We're going to, we want to give a sort of a snapshot that helps bring people into it. This becomes the elements, because previously we had the splats as the elements, we had the lines, we had the venue signs with their own unique shape. But with this, we didn't want to have elements that detracted from the artwork, because this is about showcasing the artists and the various people who are developing their practice. So what was going on here? You as an artist, you're saying the shape and the hiding behind is fabulous, because actually you are talking the same way an artist would, but yet at the same time what you're developing is a brand graphic. And so to see that Chester Artbeat has an art person behind the marketing is fabulous. So yeah, over to you, Richard.
Yeah, well, yeah, developing Chester into an arts and culture destination, that sentence came through our conversations, didn't it? And through previous things I think that have been written, or trying to sort of land it, or trying to position it in that sense. So to bring that sort of forward as a vision, if you like, as a sort of an overarching sort of vision, felt quite important. And I guess when you do a sort of a rebrand and update, you want to sort of push your messages, sort of over push your messages at the start to make sure you're getting that new tone across there. So developing Chester into an arts and culture destination, and then sort of seeing this almost as a piece of art, you know. So I'm using the actual artist's work, or pictures of Chester there as a sort of a glimpse, a snapshot into what is coming, you know, what is being developed. So there's hopefully a bit of intrigue there. So you then onto the website, onto social media to see what is going to be brought on the 5th of July, you know. So, and oh yes, we had the I sort of came up with a line, you know, the art landscape is changing in Chester, and I like the idea of creating some graphics that showed that landscape, if you like. And yeah, that's the one there. So art landscape is changing in Chester, and then we could, you know, ongoing, you could have lots of different views, if you like, lots of different versions of that landscape. Oh yeah, that's the one I think we've used on maybe the Facebook page and header. So it just gives that impression of something new is coming, something is developing, and it's a whole place you can come to, a destination you can come to, and you can interact with these different artists in different places. So, and of course it's important to try and show a range of, there's a photographer there, there's a potter there I can see, there's painters, I think there's textile stuff as well.
Let me make it a bit bigger for you. There you go. You can see them a bit better now.
Yeah. So it's good to get
with more of the splices, as you referred to them. Splices,
yes, the splices.
Yeah, and that leaf is in glass, isn't it? Not that it's so obvious when it's a small one, but the fern.
Yeah. And I've used a couple of them in a little bird in the sky there, just to give that impression of a landscape, and a little bit of reflection in the floor, because we are by the river. There is a river in Chester, of course, as well. So that was a bit of a nod to that. Yeah, with the reflection at the bottom there. So it's been a really fun brand identity to sort of, you know, steer along and bring together. And you could have a lot of fun with creating all sorts of images and pictures from these slices, you know, whether they're stacked or whether they're, you know, sort of down one side in a big perspective and stuff. So, you know, fun could be had. So it's nice to, it did feel like a piece of art to as, you know, art/design to do it. So it was good. It was good fun.
And what would you say, having been involved in Chester Artbeat and seeing how it went in 2022 and being behind the scenes here, helping develop how we're looking for 2024, what do you think is one of the great things about Chester Artbeat, the people involved, or how this changes our city? Like, for you, what is special about Chester Artbeat as a place where ideas happen? I know that's your strapline. You make the ideas happen, come to life.
Yeah, I mean, when I work with people, if I can work with the people who are sort of running the show, who are coming up with the idea, who are forming it together, you know, you can see the energy and the excitement that they have for their project. And so it's always a massive pleasure to work with people and help them express that, if you like, clarify and visualize, I might say. So we have the conversation, you can see that, oh yes, we want to do this with it, and so right, how big is the vision, and right, so you want to do this with it, right? Okay, well, let's get that down, and how are we now going to express that? So going on that journey with somebody, it's a bit of a partnership, I guess, isn't it? It's fantastic. And so working with yourself, and hearing the passion from the others who are involved, And that notion of, I think especially with arts, with a project like this, with the arts, Chester Artby is encouraging artists to express themselves and do their thing. And I love that idea that we enable people to do their thing and bring those things into the world and let them have a chance of being seen and making a difference, if you like, so suddenly, I'm just looking at the graphic there, you've got 15 or 20, I think there's 25-ish artists involved. And so the notion of helping a project that helps 25 people express what's in their minds and hearts, whatever, is a it's a great thing to do. It's a great thing to do.
And if there was somebody out there and they were looking at putting their own promotional materials together, or trying to, maybe an artist who's trying to express who they are and solidify and clarify their brand so that there's some consistency, so that when people see things that isn't just their artwork, because obviously the artwork has its own voice, but to seat their artwork and themselves into it, do you have any top tips? Obviously, this is something you do every day, apart from, come, I will help you. No, I'll do your sales pitch for you. Richard is great. He'll help you.
Well, it's kind of it always seems to be the question of why for me, and why are you doing this work? Where are you, why are you doing this work? How are you trying to answer the questions you've got in your head, or the problems that you're seeing, and what you actually want to do, and I'm doing this because I want to, maybe some artists want to create stuff that is about a particular theme or an issue they see in the world, and so to know and understand that, and to be able to sort of state that clearly and understand that yourself helps you focus your directions and where you're going, and helps you understand, helps the people you're doing your work for understand your start point and where you're sort of coming from, if you like. So that's for artists or businesses or whatever, it always starts with why are you doing this, and what's the problem you're seeing. And no, people don't know enough about nature, so I'm painting lots of pictures about nature. Right, well, what's the thing about, well, nature keeps the whole ecology. Right, well, this is why you're doing this, isn't it? So it's trying to understand that and get that down into words, or I guess for an artist you would be getting that down as a statement, maybe an artist statement, and then you'll be doing the work. So it'd be slightly different for an artist. But I just love to do that, and people seem to have responses to the world that they want to bring, and so what better thing to do to sort of encourage and enable that, and say, right, here's this person's response, there you are, world. Hopefully you can now see it and understand it, and let's see if it can make a difference. And who knows what the world will look like if we get all these great ideas and get them all out in the world. But that's what I'm interested in doing, really. Yeah. Who knows if that makes sense. Like, get all these great ideas.
And I just saw there were some comments on the post, but it was just asking if there's any comments, because there is somebody watching, but there have not yet been. So perhaps they will share in the chat if you have an actual question for Richard about what it looks like to get your ideas out in the world, make them happen. And in terms of colour, I know that you like to experiment a little bit, and the relationships of colours with each other was something you mentioned earlier. So I would love to know, how do you go about when you've got this green palette that you're pulling through just one of the colours from our prior design? Because we went from, it was mainly a yellow brand with some of the red, blue and green lettering on it. Then it went through to taking those different colours and making them less primary colour and more bright as a purple brand. But this green here, this was one of the colours which was within the palette, and then muting it down so that it was less about the colours of the presentation, but the artwork colours shine through in the artists. How does one go about making sure, if you have a variety of different styles of work, different colours of work, that your branding colours work with it, but let that shine out? Like, that was a challenge for this project, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a challenge, but the notion of a green color is quite a calming. It's a calming color. People read it as a calming color, a potentially new beginnings. So it's a case of we were trying to get something that will be identifiable but not overpowering. So yes, we did mute them down because we wanted to be a bit more understated as a brand, if you like. So and then we went through a lot of the artist's images to try and get a color range, but also keep it within the tone of what we were trying to do. So we didn't want them all bright yellow, or so we tried to do a color range there. So there's some control that we need to have in terms of presenting the brand, but the green mainly for the calming notion of that. This is no longer we're no longer trying to express a younger, fun family trail. It's a bit more grown up than that now. So the tone of that just brings that down. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does indeed. Fabulous. So, one of the other things that you're very aware of, and I've heard you mention before, I see that guitar. I'm pointing up because you're above me right now, but actually we're probably side by side on the actual thing. But in your background, let me just say it that way. In your background, over your shoulder, you have guitar, and you like to express things in more than one way. So we would love to know, you as a creative, when you're not doing your brand clarification and helping people take the idea and going, okay, so what is it you want to do? What is important to you? What do you want people to understand? What do you like to experiment and do personally?
Goodness, yeah. I do like to write songs and poetry and things, and generally write, and it's just a way of processing, really, for me. It's kind of a way of exploring thoughts, working stuff out, trying to because I find when you create something, you can get it in front of you, and then it sort of reflects back to you a bit, so you can, oh my goodness, I didn't realize I was so feeling so crazy today, through what you create. So it's a great little space to just to let yourself be and follow the notions, and I say create something that then you can look at and maybe understand a bit more about how you're feeling about things, or what is just underneath the surface. So it's I'm sure it's partly self-therapy in some ways. Yeah, and so and other stuff that expresses themes that I'm interested in, like about hope, or giving people a chance to express things, or why do we do things, and how it all fits together, and where do ideas come from, and these sorts of things. So yeah, it's a sort of it's a space just to do that, really, and that sort of thinking feeds into the design stuff, of course, because I'm asking, why am I doing it? Why am I feeling this song? Why am I what is going on in the world? Poem, how are we supposed to make this world better? What's our role in it? I'm kind of so I play with those ideas with my more fine art stuff, experiments, garage experiments, you might say, because I'm in an old garage. yeah. But it's just a practice of responding to the thoughts in my head, and so the design stuff is responding to the thoughts in other people's heads, and trying to get that out. Yeah.
That's a really nice way of putting it, that the design and the branding that Richard Coan Design does for other businesses, people, creatives, charities, businesses, that is responding to other people's ideas and get them out of their heads. Whereas then you have your personal creative time, whereby you're getting your own ideas out of your head. And do you think that you would be able to create the graphic design and clarify other people's ideas as well, if it weren't for that personal processing time? How much impact do you think it's having on keeping you from, say, going into artistic burnout, or keeping you in a place where you're still excited to show up for work each day?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think it's really part of what I am, and not to sound too profound about it, it's yeah, it is. I think now you've asked the question, I think it is really important that I do explore those things, and it's always been quite a challenge to know how much time to spend on those personal projects, if you like, as opposed to and how forward to push those things as opposed to the graphic design. Of course, I've got to, the bottom line is I've got to earn a living, if you like, but at the same time, this seems entirely vital for me to yeah, say vital. It's a have to. I seem to have to express these things through my own sort of personal projects as a way of processing, and the process of that, yeah, definitely sits in parallel to doing that process with other people, because I kind of know what it's like a little bit to try and dig in and understand what it is you're trying to say and express, so which is why I like writing. I like working on the words of things as well, and like the art landscape is changing in Chester, that sense of copywriting, if you like, and then trying to express that same notion through the visual posters and the graphics. So it's all the same sort of thing to me. And sometimes it's sectioned into graphic design job. Sometimes it's personal project. Sometimes it's a bit in the middle, and it's kind of, well, I've written a song and a little charity might use it for a little bit to promote theirs, and it sort of leaks across into being used in the real world, you might say. So it's just a balancing act of keeping all that alive.
See, this is why I said you're an artist. You are definitely a creative. You are somebody who is forever developing and exploring and asking questions. And if there's one thing that our artists, when I've interviewed them previously in last series, the 2022 series, that came across, is that idea of development, of experimentation, of taking an idea from its start point. That's never the final piece. There's always iterations on it, or there is a progress and a throwing that out the window and doing something new as a result of what you did before. And that has been the process even in developing the brand here. And for those people who absolutely, like you, love a bit of this and a bit of that, one of the challenges is then, how do you communicate that well on your social media challenges, and what do you share? Because there's so many pieces, there's so many strings to your bow. So what I do love is that while you are showcasing what you can do for people, what your solution is, how they can make their ideas happen, that there are those little nods to who Richard is as well within that, the songs, the poetry, the little what would you call them? You do those little drawings that like illustrate, not quite illustrations, they almost move. What they not graphics. You must know the name. Why am I even trying to bother? Richard, you do little graphics like for charities, that so when they don't have a photograph and they want to depict a concept through pictures.
Oh, like oh goodness me. What's the word? It's sort of infographics and things, or some icons and bits and pieces that they might need to express the other sides of what they do. Yeah. So
and I've seen your humour come out through some of those as well. But if anybody wishes to see any of this, where can we find you? What are you doing over the course of this summer? What is there that you want us to know about?
Well, yeah, you can find me on my website.
Your website. Okay, hang on. I have a website here.
Yeah.
I say I have the website here. Let me change the tab so that it is the website here, and go to the homepage and try sharing it once more. Aha.
richardcoandesign.co.uk.
And here we are. Although I feel I'm wearing more of your colour than you are perhaps today. Your fleeces, but almost matches the shirt there. There we go. So yes, you were asking those questions before: the why, the how, the what, the vision, the mission, the plan. See that on the understanding your mission and your value, and then some of your designs. Anything you'd like us to see here while we're visiting?
Well, I mean, the core of the brand identity stuff is that notion of the style sheet there, and because it's a mixture of expressing what you're organization does or what you do. You know, it largely starts with a logo. If it's an organization, you know, supporting fonts, so it keeps it on brand. The colors, the graphics, the photography, as you know, Elizabeth, is vitally important as well to keep your photography on brand as well. So bringing that together in that sort of style sheet, in that sort of snapshot of potentially what you're going to look like in the future, you know, it also allows you to communicate with your team, who you're, what you're aiming at. So it allows you to stay sort of on brand, you know. And of course, the brand identity becomes an asset in itself, you know, in the future, if you're ever going to sell your company or whatever. And as it says on the website there, you know, your marketing becomes easier because you've got such a strong start point of, well, we know the colors, we know the graphics, we know the fonts, and we know the sort of the balance of what we're aiming at. So there's a few style sheets there for Reflective Chester, happy horse bedding. So that involves signage and packaging. Viking Assurance, which is another type of company, safety in businesses. Small company, Seb Butts, individual. This is your ticket to a better life. He was a life coach, if you like. Oh, and that's the original Chester Heartbeat. Which
you get to update that now.
Get to update that. Fresh Streams, which is a faith organisation.
So there's here, but obviously the other thing that you information on you and your blog and so forth, but then we can find you over on Facebook and Instagram.
And Instagram, yeah. And you know, it's mainly design stuff that you'll find on Instagram. And there's a little poem for you there. Let's not play that now. Yes.
But are you sure? He's muted.
Oh dear, it's muted. Yeah. I for some strange reason I did go into a Scouse accent. I don't quite know what's going on there.
The Scouse accent, it makes it all. Oh dear. So there you go.
I sometimes get told off when I go on holiday because I start speaking in sort of pseudo-Italian accents and stuff, and my kids just, "What are you doing, Dad?" And I don't even know I'm doing it, so I have to be careful.
So on the socials, you are Richard Coan Design, and your website was it richardcoandesign.co.uk?
It is.
Well, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for exploring the idea of Chester Heartbeat, but also the process behind it as an artist yourself. Any final parting wisdom for us today?
Wow, final parting wisdom. That's well, I just think ideas can change the world. Doesn't matter how big or small they are. You know, whether it's, you know, moving the salt on a table in a cafe because it would you know be more logical to put it, or whether it's launching a satellite, wherever it is. I think we have to take ourselves seriously enough and take our ideas seriously enough and bring them out, let them have a go, and let's see what happens, because I think we can do good things. Yeah, and that's why I love, you know, making ideas happen, as they say.
Well, fabulous. Thank you so much for helping us make this idea move forward and happen, because the art landscape in Chester is changing. And from 5th to the 7th of July, which is coming soon, we are counting down to about 5.5 weeks now till we hit the city, developing Chester into that arts and culture destination with the art event of the summer. And you will be able to see some of our fabulous artists in the artist series. The next interview that is coming out will be with Alex Russell, although it isn't where it all began. I have got the wrong copy of the slide there, but you can see his fabulous face. And we will be talking about the generation of art with himself. So we hope to see you all soon. We are also now on YouTube. So if you are a YouTuber and you actually use Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, come join us on one of those platforms. And if you want to know when there is a new copy of the next episode out, then please just drop your email on the link that is on our social platforms and on our website, so that you can sign up for Chester Heartbeat exclusives, because we will be emailing you every time the interviews go live, so you know what to expect. And you don't have to then be glued to your phone, your computer, your tablet, waiting and going, is it here yet? Is it here yet? But be the first to get the news. So we can't wait to hear from you. And Richard, been an absolute pleasure. And we're looking forward to seeing the new trail map when that is released with our new artists and venues. Oh, the new styling.
Great stuff. Thank you.
Take care now, everybody.
Thank
you so much.
Bye-bye.